I can't believe it's been 9 months since I last did a Random Thoughts video where I was saying, oh, I'm going to talk about my work life throughout the years. 9 months, and I know it's been that long because I've made a list of things I want to talk about, and it's way down there, about 4 pages. Yikes. Hey guys, my name is Chris if you didn't already know, and welcome to one of my Random Thoughts videos. Although it's not really Random Thoughts because I pretty much know what I'm going to talk about. But seriously, 9 months. I've just been looking back to see when the last one was. September. I'm like, that can't be right. So I went through my list again and it still came up the same. I'm like, okay then. Because I was going to talk about work life and stuff. So I had to sort of rewatch the ending of that to see where I was. Even though I've got notes that I'm going to go through. But before I get on with that, I want to talk about my current work life. As in, it's getting a bit too much for me. I think I'm actually going to start looking for another job again. The reason I'm saying that is, it's not that I'm finding it too hard or anything. It's mainly because I'm always on 12 hours. For example, this week, I was supposed to be on 5 12-hour nights. Oh yeah, Friday night I started at 6 PM, but I finished on Saturday at 8 AM. They asked us to work a few extra hours because a furnace wasn't going to be coming out until about 7:30. Yay! I mean, great for my bank balance, but for my well-being, not so great. Saturday morning, yesterday, I finished work. I was thinking of going to Starbucks and then Home Bargains because they opened at 8. I could not be bothered. I just wanted to go home and get in the bathtub and soak in it for a little while because I was filthy all over. Honestly, the t-shirts that they give us, you think, oh, all the muck could go on the t-shirt. No, it soaks through. Not straight away, but given over a few days of wearing that same t-shirt, yeah. Because I didn't go to bed. Because I'm back to work tomorrow morning, Monday morning at 6 AM for another 5 12-hour shifts. So yeah, I didn't go to bed. After I'd had my bath, I decided to go out and do a bit of shopping, but absolutely nothing. Came home and I thought, oh, I'll have a quick game of GTA because I've not been on it all week. Because I finish at 6 AM, I go home, straight to bed, get up at 12:30, because I don't want to spend all my time in bed, otherwise it'd be work, bed, work, bed. That's even worse than what I'm already doing. So I get up at 12:30, have a coffee, check my phone, get washed and dressed, either go out to do a bit of shopping or I do a bit of tidying up, whatever, or sit in front of the TV and watch TV. I've been currently watching this, which is kind of out that I'm wearing this t-shirt. The original series of Star Trek, like the first season. I've actually been quite enjoying it. It's the one where they've got all the new CGI stuff in it. It's actually really good. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. And then of course, straight to work. So back to yesterday, after I'd been shopping, I played some GTA and I put Star Trek on because I was getting hungry. My stomach just, out of the blue, just started grumbling at me. And I'm like, okay, I'll feed you. Yes, I do talk to my tummy. Like, we hold these massive conversations with each other every single day. I'm kidding. So yeah, I was watching that while I had food, and I was on to the second episode, and sitting here, I was like, going like this. And I kept missing bits of the episode. And this was only 5 PM. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, I need to go to bed. So I started making tracks to go to bed, and then I started thinking, well, hold on a minute, if I go to bed too early, tonight, Sunday night, I'll probably not be able to get to sleep. So I said, no, I'm going to stay up, watch at least another episode, which so happened to be one of my favourite ones, Space Seed, the one where we first get introduced to Khan. Yeah, again, I'm like, falling asleep. So much in fact that when it got to the end of the episode, there was this monologue that Captain Kirk gave. I completely missed it, so I rewound it so I could watch it. And it was at this point, 6:30, I'm like, go to bed. I just need to go to bed. I can't stay awake. So I went to bed at that time, and I got up at 6 a.m. this morning. I only got up for the toilet twice. The first was like 8:30, and I'm like, I fell straight to sleep. Honestly, as soon as my head was on the pillow, I had no thoughts. I was gone. Out. So yeah, I've had about 11.5 hours sleep last night. So hopefully I'm going to get sleep tonight. We'll see. Anyway, on to my notes. I last talked about how I got into Sheffield Forge Masters, but I believe I wrote in my notes some reminders, some things that I'd forgotten, like Parsons Cross College that I used to go to, the one where I did the computing course. I've written down, it no longer exists, the college. I found that out when I bought my Alfa Romeo in 2007. Once I picked that up, I took it for a nice big drive, and I thought, well, Parsons Cross College isn't that far from where I got the car, so I drove up there and I saw that it was just flattened, like there was nothing there. I'm like, where's my college gone? I really loved that college. I had a good time there. Yes, I've just put a simple note, but I need to tell the story. I can't believe I've not already said this one. I think it was the first day of that college, and the group of us, I think there was about 17 of us at the beginning. That number dwindled over the course of a few months. But we all got to know each other pretty quickly. I can't remember his name. I know I've just said we got to know each other pretty quickly, but I don't remember any of their names anymore. We are talking 34 years ago. Yeah, I remember we were stood outside the cafeteria area, and it was like a big hallway that led off to other places, obviously. Anyway, there were these big glass windows at the end of the hallway, and one of the lads, he was saying, well, that's a door, isn't it? And we were all saying, no, like, it's a window. And he's like, no, it's a door. And we were like, it's a window. You could clearly see that they're all windows. I mean, they were like 8 feet tall and maybe so wide. He's like, no, it's an open door. And we're like, well, go find out. Now, most people, when they want to go find out if it's a door, you'd reach out, wouldn't you? Not him, no. He walked straight at it, full speed, didn't stop. He found out it was a window because he literally bounced off of it. Like, he hit it, flew off. And honestly, we were in so much hysterics. I fell on the floor laughing. My gut was aching from laughing so hard. He took it all well. He didn't have a huff or anything. He took it pretty well. He saw the funny side of it. But honestly, I will never forget him bouncing off of that window. And the note I wrote down, which is why I chuckled, is guy who believed a window was an open door. Yeah, I've already said our group shrank over the first few months. Yeah, because they found that the course wasn't for them, and so they started leaving. I think there might have been 12 of us by the end of it. So not many people did leave, but it felt like at least once a month somebody just decided not to come back, and we never saw them again. Oh yeah, and I've wrote down, memory of starting at Forge Masters was wrong. I started in February of 1993 till May. Then I went to Clarkson Osborne for 2 months. So that was June, July. And then I went back to Forge Masters in July to work in that office. But I got the memory of when I finished there and started actually working was September of 94. Oh yeah, I've made some notes about the office thing as well. Like, I started as an office junior, couldn't find it on the first day. That's no word of a lie, honestly. And of course this is before we had mobile phones or Google Maps or anything like that. So it was very difficult to find. So I was a bit late on that first day, but never mind. It used to be called Forged Rolls, that's true. The place that when I first started there, it was called Forged Rolls, even though it was still part of, I think the other part was still called Forge Masters at that point, but we were Forged Rolls under the banner of Forge Masters. Maybe. My memory of that is very sketchy. Another memory from that, we had a guy come in to redo some of the databases and stuff, and they positioned him at the desk next to mine, like across. What was his name? I think it might have been Simon or something like that. Again, 30 odd years ago. But I do recall that he was telling me how easy it was, and he strung it out because he was getting paid, I think, by the week or by the day or something. So he made it last months, honestly. And most of that time, he bunked off a lot. Like, he just kept disappearing. And I kept getting asked where he was. I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm not in charge of him. I don't, you know, I was just an office junior. I was only there 3 days a week and getting paid £35 a week from college to be there. I wasn't his keeper. But I do remember one day I was asked where he was, and I had to lie. You know, I was like, I don't know. I did know. He was under his desk, asleep. Seriously, he'd crawled into the, crawl space underneath the desk and went to sleep. Oh, he was a crazy person. But I think they've eventually cottoned on to what he was doing and realised that he'd finished his work already, and they were like, right, time for you to go. That was a crazy memory. Oh yeah, and the other thing, during that time, I started growing my hair out. I just let it grow and grow and grow until I had a ponytail. My hair was halfway down my back by the end of that. And I had a friend who told me that I was going to get a job at this place, Forge Masters, and I kept saying no. And so she said, right, let's make a bet. I'm like, okay. She betted that I was going to get a job, and if I did, all the hair off. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that bet, because I didn't believe I'd get a job there. And of course I did, eventually. So as part of my reluctance, I said to her, right, well, I will chop it off, but not till next year. And it was August of 1995 that I chopped it off. In fact, I'm going to show a picture here next to my really crappy car that I'll one day talk about. That's the day I had my hair cut off. And I remember, because it was my brother's 18th birthday party that they were having at my parents' house, I walked in and my mum just took one look, because I'd had the curtains done, you know, where your hair's split in the middle and all of it chopped off at the back. She had to sit down on the steps because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. So yeah, right, so I think they were all the backstory notes that I had written down. And now on to when I actually did start working for Forge Masters properly. My formative years, the first 4 years, was in the hardness testing area. Basically, had a steel roll and I had to prep a little gap in it. I said gap. I had to do like a little, I used a grinding wheel on it first, then I had to use a sander, and then a flat wheel. I don't know why they called it a flat wheel. I thought it was flat wheel at first, but they were like, no, it's flat wheel. So it like polishes it up a little bit, and then of course a polisher at the end. So there was like a little tiny mirror in the steel, and then we used what we called a penetroscope, a very old device where it's kind of like a microscope. So you attach it to the roll with a chain, tighten it up, not too much, just enough, and then you put this like little device down that imprints a tiny minuscule diamond into the metal, and you have to do it at like 30 psi and yada yada, and then that lifted up, you spun it around for the microscope part, and then you went down and you had to get the diamond in your little viewpoint, and you had to put these black borders at the side to line it up with the diamond, and then that gave you a number, and then you flip it the other way to do it that way, and that gave you a number, and that was the hardness, and you had to go, you know, on the customer specs and everything. I hated doing that, and I did that for 4 years. It was really boring. But there are some stories during that time. Sorry, I'm getting very warm. It's because I've closed the windows and I've got my legs crossed, so I'm going to sit normal. I'll start talking about, I went to college. They sent me to a college, Rotherham College in fact, where I was to do, I kept calling it metallurgy. It's called metallurgy, but I used to call it metallurgy. That was it. That's what I used to call it, metallurgy, because I couldn't say metallurgy. I don't know why. Here's the thing, right? I went to this course. The first course was about all different types of metal, which really didn't affect me because all I worked with was steel. That was it. I didn't have to know about iron or nickel or all these other types of metals. I only dealt with steel. So why I had to learn that stuff, I don't know. The teacher, and I'm going to say his name, I don't know if he's still around or not, Dr. Lomas, he was the most arrogant teacher I've ever had in my life. When I was at Parson Cross College, those teachers said, "Oh, call me by my first name, blah blah blah." Not him, no, you had to call him Doctor or Dr. Lomas. That was it. And he was also one of those where he'd read out what stuff from a book and write it on the blackboard, and he expected you to copy that into your notes. He didn't tell you to do that, he just expected it. I only knew because I noticed other people was like writing it down and looking at the board. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be writing this down. I didn't, I had to get my notepad out and start writing it down. Then there were other parts of the course that I didn't mind. There was a computing course. Don't know why, but I flew through that because I'd just done a computer course for 2 years, so I knew everything already. So I was just straight through it, and then I started playing solitaire. Or if somebody needed help and the teacher was already helping somebody else, I'd go and help them. I only played solitaire because I'd finished and I was bored. I think we also did maths and a few other things. And I remember we used to go to the pub for dinner, because back then I didn't have a car at that moment in time, so I was catching the bus there, so it didn't matter if I drank or not. But one thing that really annoyed me about the course was it was level 2. So I asked Dr. Lomas, "This is too hard, can I start at level 1? And he replied with, "There is no level 1. So I'm like, so how's there a level 2 if there's no level 1? You can't have 2 without 1. It doesn't make sense. And so I discovered, because I was only going there 1 day a week, and it was a Monday. After a few weeks, I said to my managers at work, I can't do this course, I need to quit. And they were like, well, we've paid a lot of money for you to do this course, so you need to stick with it. I went, alright, okay. One thing you guys probably don't know about me is I don't like being told what to do. I'm very rebellious. I always have been. So I rebelled. It took 2 weeks for my company to find out what I was doing. And this is what I did. I'd get to the first lesson, which was Dr. Lomas's lesson. I'd sit back in my chair with a newspaper in my hand, and I'd just sit there reading it while he's waffling on, writing on the blackboard. And eventually he turned around and says, "Can I ask what you're doing?" I'm like, "I'm reading." "But you're not doing the coursework." And I'm like, "No, I want to quit, but my company won't let me quit, so I'm going to sit here and read my paper." "Out. Get out now." I'm like, okay. Packed up all my stuff and went out. The other parts of the course, like the computer course, because I got on with that teacher, I didn't do that with them out of respect. I just knew it was going to rile up Dr. Lomas. But I was surprised it took a few weeks for them to contact my company to tell them what I was doing. And I was called into the office one day and they were saying, "What's this I hear that you're not doing any of the work and you're sitting on your just reading a paper?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because I've told you I don't want to do this course anymore. I can't do it. It's too hard. If there was a level 1 what starts with the basics rather than throwing you into the middle of whatever it is that I'm being thrown into, I'd do it." So because of that, they took me off the course and just carried on with doing what I was doing. So yeah, that was not a very fond memory, but I had fun rebelling. I was going to look at my notes to see what else I did during them formative years, but there is one thing that still affects me to this day to do with this knee. There's one particular day, this was 5 months into the job, and I was still on probation time because that lasted for 6 months apparently, so I wasn't getting paid very much. So there was this one day where the sergeant slash team leader, he wanted to take some of the steel rolls away from the testing area. Unfortunately, at this one point in time, there was one roll that was sat on some wood on the floor in the middle. And because the crane doesn't quite reach all the way into the testing area and he wanted a specific roll out of there, he had to lift it up but at a slant. So it was going up this way and then it'd swing. Unfortunately, he wasn't a very good crane driver. Proper etiquette is that you sling the ropes onto the job, bring it up slowly so it tightens up, and then you move out of the way and then lift. Oh no, not him. I'm putting the rope on, he's going up fast. As soon as it snagged, he lifted, and I was still in between that roll and another roll, so it swung. But as it swung, the roll that was on the floor, it hit the end of that, so it spun, and the end of that roll and the roll that I was stood next to, I was caught in between with my leg. Now, I was told, fortunately, had I been 2 inches left, my leg would have been coming off. More unfortunate, if I was 2 inches the other way, I probably wouldn't have been injured at all. But no, my leg got caught and I went into shock. I know this because the team leader, the crane driver, he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, and he's like sitting me down, and I could just feel like blood rushing through my head, you know, and like a humming noise. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He says, we don't really have to tell anyone about this. Honestly, that's the last thing I heard before my ears just went bing, like completely no sound whatsoever. And I could see my vision starting to like blur, and like I just started going, it was sort of like mist. Basically, I'd gone into shock, and eventually my head became clear again, and I'm like, suddenly the pain in my knee came back to me. I was in so much agony. My manager, he came in and he's like, what's going on? And, yeah, and so they sent me to the hospital by taxi so that they could look it over, and it was badly bruised, like really badly bruised. So it were all bandaged up. They gave me some crutches. I got the taxi back to work. At this point, I had my dad's car, because my dad had had an accident at work as well. Apparently he'd been thrown off the back of a lorry. I don't really know the details of that, but he'd broken his leg or something, or his arm I believe. So he couldn't drive, so I was asked to drive his car to take him places, and also I could have the car for a few months whilst that was happening. To get home, they had one guy drive me in their car while they had somebody else drive my dad's car home for me. And I got home, my mum come running out of the front door, because I was still living at home at this point. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, has nobody phoned you up to tell you? No. So I ended up having a month off of work because of that. And because I wasn't getting paid very well, there was no sick pay. So, you know, good thing I didn't have any mortgages or car payments or anything like that at that point. All I was doing was buying videos. That's all I was spending my money on. So yeah, I ended up having a month off. And like I say, it still affects me to this day. It's not been so bad of late. It's usually during the winter it starts hurting. Mainly because I'm now 50 and both my knees are hurting. In fact, my right knee hurts more than my left these days. Just from walking up steps. Old age. Is there anything else before I decide to sign off? Because I think I've been waffling on way too much. Because I was working 7:30 while 4 o'clock Monday to Thursday, and Fridays it was 6 while 1. I got the whole afternoon to do things, so I'd always, because at this point I no longer had my dad's car, so I was back on the bus. I'd catch a bus into town to get home, you know, bus into town, then a bus from town to home. So while I was in town, I'd go spend my money, because at this point, after the accident, I started getting full-time pay, and I would just go from one end of town, which was Wicker, all the way to the end of the moor, and I'd be going in all the shops, you know, HMV, there were loads of other shops that are no longer existing that sold videos, and I would literally buy 10 videos per week. That's no word of a lie. Explains why I still have so many now. Oh, and I should mention, I don't think I've wrote this down, the compensation I got for the accident. I usually remember the number. £2,157.50 I got from that as a compensation. And you know what I bought out of that? A PC, which I'll show you I've still got, and it still works, and a bicycle, which I don't still have. That's gone long ago. But yeah, that's what I got out of that money. Right guys, I'm definitely going to go now. I'm going to delete those notes that I've mentioned and save the others for the next one, which will hopefully not be in 9 months' time. That's the problem lately with all these 12 hours I'm doing. I'm finding it very difficult to find the time to film videos. This one's, it was just like in my brain this morning, like video, because I've been doing Dashcam Chris a lot. I've been keeping up with them. I did a lot of vlogging, especially in April. I did vlog every day, so I've been keeping up with vlogging. It's this channel I've not been able to keep up with. I wrote Smeg Chris script a few weeks ago. I still haven't filmed that. I don't think I'm going to do that today either. Soon. And also I need to start doing Smeg Chris review. There's 2 films I need to do. Maybe I'll do that in a bit. I'm rambling. Right. I'm going to go. All that's left for me to say now is thank you for watching and subscribing if you have, and liking this video if you did. Until the next time, not in 9 months' time, peace out. Oh yeah, let me go show you the PC that I got from that compensation after I get up the steps with my creaky knees. Here it is, my Adi Pro Vista. It's a mesh. That's what it is. And you might not believe it, but it does still work. I just don't use it. It's more of a keepsake these days, or an ornament, or a thing that I keep things on. Yes, I bought that all the way back in 1998, and yes, it did have internet access at the time, but it was dial-up, so every time I wanted to upload a page, it took about 10 minutes. I'm not even kidding. FYI, it still has the games Doom and Doom 2 on there, and that's the reason why I turn it on, to play them.